Hello, everybody. This is Cool Frog with another episode of the Pickerel. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about Dave Hutchinson, the Hennepin County Sheriff. That's Hennepin County in Minnesota. If you don't know where Hennepin County is, let's give you a quick look on what Google Maps has to say. As you can see, it consists of a very large area, including Minneapolis itself. Bloomington, Eden Prairie, Minnetonka, and Brooklyn Park, Brooklyn Center area, and a very large area. So it starts out almost a month ago, and it says Hennepin County Sheriff Dave Hutchinson, suspected of impaired driving on I-94 crash, admits the inexcusable decision. Inexcusable? You're the sheriff. How can you actually think that this is okay to even do this? You're the one that everybody's supposed to be looking up to and actually wanting to follow. But, let it be as it is. It says Hennepin County Sheriff Dave Hutchinson is suspected of driving while under the influence of alcohol when he crashed his vehicle early Wednesday in western Minnesota. State authorities said. So this is early Wednesday, before the 8th of December. So almost a month ago from today. The rollover wreck occurred at 2:30 a.m. on the eastbound Interstate 94, about 5 miles east of Alexandria, where Hutchinson was attending a Minnesota Sheriff's Association conference. So all the sheriffs were all together in one place, and he decides to take off in his vehicle. So this is the 41-year-old Hutchinson acknowledged in a statement and make an inexcusable decision to drive after drinking alcohol. I mean, totally inexcusable. What would make him think that this is even a thing to even try doing? He should know better, more than almost anybody, that this is illegal to do. Douglas County Sheriff's deputies responded to the crash scene and suspected impairment. The state trooper obtained a warrant and collected a UA sample for Hutchinson to determine impairment, which is standard procedure for when impairment is suspected in a crash and the person is transported to the hospital. Charges are pending based on the results of the sample and reviewed by the Douglas County Attorney's Office. Hennepin County Sheriff's Office spokesman Andy Skogman said that Hutchinson, who is elected by voters, is not subject to any disciplinary action by the county in the same manner as a deputy might be for certain actions, which is ludicrous. He should be under the same, scope as any other. It says he lives in Bloomington, released his own statement acknowledging that he was investigated for driving under the influence and suffered serious non-life-threatening injuries. I made the inexcusable decision to drive after drinking alcohol, and I'm deeply sorry. As the chief law enforcement officer in Hennepin County, I am held to higher standard. Yeah, you are. I regret the choice. I made and apologize to the citizens I serve, the staff I work with, and the friends and family who support me. I take full responsibility for my actions and am prepared to accept the consequences of my poor decision. I'm relieved that no one else was injured in the crash. I will immediately address my personal issues surrounding alcohol and seek help I need to continue to serve the people of Hennepin County. At least he's finding the help. Finding the help and actually acknowledging that you actually were in the wrong, and that, your alcohol takes the best of you. It can sometimes take a lot for a person to actually, accept that. Being that he's going to accept it, I mean, it is something. If he continues to actually, follow his thoughts on that, then that's another. Hennepin County Board Chairman, Chair Marion Green, said in a statement, "I am relieved that no one else was injured in the crash involving Sheriff Hutchinson, and that as far as I know, the sheriff is doing fine. It appears Sheriff Hutchinson is taking responsibility for his serious actions both professionally and personally. I wish him the best of the steps toward recovery. Commissioner Debbie Godel says, and will accept responsibility for his choices. I don't expect to see any disruptions in the public safety operations. Which is kind of ridiculous, because anybody else that gets a DUI in Minnesota or whatever usually loses their license for, the first time for at least 30 days. Let's see here. We can pull up the statute on that. There's your legal limit of 0.08. The consequences for driving impaired can vary by the offender. The typical penalty of the first-time offender is potential jail time and loss of the license for a minimum of 30 days to up to a year. And that's usually dependent on the number up and above the 0.08. Assistant County Administrator of Public Safety Mark Thompson, whose office oversees the sheriff, said, "It is unfortunate to hear the sheriff was involved in a crash. Apparently he suffered some injuries, but no one else is injured. Being a leader of law enforcement is difficult these days." I'm sure it is. I'm not going to put that past him. That is, it has to be difficult to actually, do the job that he's doing. But he messed up, and he should pay for his mistakes. So then it continues. So this one's from the 9th. This is the day after. It says, Hennepin Sheriff David Hutchinson is lucky to be alive, recovering from alcohol-related crashes. All these articles are out of the Star Tribune, and that's why I'm following them all. Hennepin County Sheriff Dave Hutchinson, lucky to be alive, and recovering from numerous injuries from crashing his SUV in western Minnesota, likely while intoxicated, his attorney said Thursday. The rollover wreck occurred around 2:30 a.m. Wednesday, about 5 miles east of Alexandria on Interstate 94. Hutchinson said in a statement the next day that he was returning from Minnesota Sheriff's Association Winter Conference in Arrowwood Resort and made an inexcusable decision to drive after drinking alcohol. Again, we went through that. Fred Bruno of the Star Tribune that Hutchinson is doing not too bad, not too good. Physically, I will remain in Elmore Health Hospital in Alexandria for a couple more days as he's treated for 3 broken ribs and head and hip injuries. So, you can see he's a fairly large man. So, if he flipped his vehicle and he actually rolled it, whatever, and, you seatbelt or not, you're going to get injured. The State Patrol said he'd be lucky to be alive. It continues. The Douglas County Attorney's Office will likely use the result to weigh charges against the 41-year-old Hutchinson. I anticipate that the criminal charges decision will be made based upon those results early next week. Bruno declined to say where Hutchinson was drinking in the hours leading up to the crash, citing an ongoing patrol investigation. He was acting very strange at the scene. Of course he was. He would have been totally acting very strange at the scene because he's the sheriff and he knew that he did something wrong. In the statement, Hutchinson said, "I will immediately address my personal issues surrounding alcohol and seek the help I need to continue to serve the people of Hennepin County." I don't think that he should actually, help, serve anybody in Hennepin County. He messed up to the point where in my mind, that he actually should maybe, look at possibly stepping down from his position. These steps are in place. We'll get into that a little bit more as we get through this. They are under a lot of unprecedented stress. It's not an excuse, but an explanation, said Bruno. Hennepin County Attorney Mike Freeman also admitted to having issues with alcohol in May 2019. He took a leave of absence in nearly 3 months to go through treatment of alcoholism and return to the job. In September, Freeman announced he would retire at the end of his term. So, this guy is actually, the county attorney is actually understanding that, hey, I messed up, but maybe I'm not the best person to actually take care of the rest of the county, and it is what it is. The sheriff's crash was posted on the web page 11 and a half hours later after news release from the State Department of Public Safety in Hutchinson were sent out to a quick succession of 10 plus hours afterward. The responding trooper, when the Hennepin County Sheriff was the driver, knew the Hennepin County Sheriff was the driver within an hour of the crash. I mean, there are 4 other injury crashes listed on the site, including the names of the people in the vehicle that occurred after Hutchinson on Wednesday. So there's other people in his vehicle, so he actually put other people in danger. All 4 were posted 2.5 hours or sooner after the incident. It is not unusual to post a crash on the media web hours after the incident as more information becomes available. He said that Hutchinson was not administered a preliminary breath test at the scene to measure intoxication, with the option to either take a urine or blood sample from Hutchinson at the hospital for alcohol content testing. The state trooper chose urine. Gordon said many lawyers in the law enforcement professional consider urine samples less accurate than blood samples at detecting alcohol levels. So, I mean, not like trying to tell you how to actually, do certain things or whatever, but obviously, they know that the urine samples actually, test a little different than what the blood samples do. Gordon said both are accurate, meet the legal standard to determine the DWI, are accepted in the court, and are routinely used by law enforcement agencies throughout the state. It goes on to explain that he had defeated the previous sheriff by more than 2,300 votes out of the more than 525,000 cast. So, I mean, there's not everybody votes for sheriff usually. Usually they just kind of go down ballot and just mark who's ever been there. But he ended up beating out the guy that was there for as long as he was. He's pretty well liked by the rank and file in the community. So, I mean, there's one thing that, he was actually fairly liked by his community. It says, has made changes in policies involving immigrant and implemented changes on how jail inmates are treated, such as offering treatment for the opiate addictions. So he did some good stuff for, Hennepin County. This is a single transgression in a career that has been long and unblemished. I hope the public will understand that. I mean, they can maybe understand it, but still there needs to be consequences for his actions. The four-day sheriff's conference started Sunday, but Dakota County Sheriff Tim Leslie said he didn't see Hutchinson until Tuesday. He said the conference was a great training opportunity and a chance to hear what sheriffs are dealing with. This year's conference had numerous speakers, an officer-involved incident. It also featured awards and officer installation ceremonies. On Tuesday night, a band performed, and there was a cash bar from 10:30 to 11:30. Socializing at night is where the best information is exchanged. The Sheriff's Association Executive Director and former Washington County Sheriff, Bill Hutton. Neither Hutton nor Leslie would say whether they saw Hutchinson at the event. They said that there were several hospitality rooms, a lot of people, and the event occurred over a relatively short period of time. It takes a lot to recognize you have an issue. Hopefully he can do something about it, said Hutton. So, I mean, he's come forward and he's actually said that he's sorry for what he'd done, which is big. If he continues to actually take care of himself and actually stay away from the alcohol, It's always a difficult road to take, is to actually become clean and stay clean. It's not always the easiest thing to do. So then, moving on to the 26th of December 2021, it says that Dave Hutchinson says he has no plans to step down after drunken driving offense. He received 2 years of probation and a fine after a guilty plea. So, I mean, he got charged with something. He was quick to admit that he did inexcusable, but said he has no plans to give up his last 2 years of his term. So he's going to try sitting through the rest of his term. He says he has 2 years left of it as of 2021. That means, 2023, 2024, somewhere in there, whatever would be the end of it for him. Hopefully he would just step away and allow somebody else to actually take the position. Getting sober has helped me regain my drive to serve the people of Hennepin County to the best of my ability. I have a lot more to give. I mean, that's good that he has a lot more to give, but he needs to step down from the top spot and maybe, do something else and continue to help the public and explain that, hey, driving, it maybe, hold some courses about drunk driving or whatever, and help others with their issues, as well as, help himself with his issues. I want to be in the forefront of public safety. Driving drunk has been the lowest point of my life. I embarrassed myself, my agency, and my family. But I want to be a role model for the people in law enforcement and first responders. So, I mean, like I said, he wants to do something. If he really wants to do something, he really needs to do that and actually help, not just himself, but others as well. I know it can be a hard, difficult road to actually get off the drinking or whatever, but it can help. Hutchinson admits the details of the fuzzy and what led to the incident and nearly took his life. His county-owned sports utility vehicle veered off Interstate 94 at 2:30 a.m. and onto a snow-covered shoulder. The vehicle went into the ditch and flipped, leaving him with a concussion and several broken ribs and vertebrae. So, I mean, as you can tell, he was actually, very, very well injured. The sheriff had a blood alcohol content of 0.13. The cash bar was only for an hour. He had to have drank quite a bit to actually get his alcohol level up to the 0.13. The state legal limit is the 0.08, like I explained earlier. He is charged with 4 misdemeanor drunk driving charges, but pleaded guilty to 4th-degree driving under the influence of alcohol. All the other sheriffs made the right decision to not drink and drive that night. What I did was inexcusable. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I am confident in my abilities to serve in the next year and beyond. So, I mean, it's one thing to serve, but it's another to actually serve as the sheriff and be the role model that you're supposed to be. Everything is always 2020. I've been a social drinker for a while and have probably been drinking a little more than I should lately. I know I needed help. Alcohol is not for me. So he's admitting that he's actually wrong, and he knows that the alcohol is not for him, and that, some of us just can't handle alcohol. It's not that we can't handle the alcohol, it's that we can't, alcohol can't handle us, and it succumbs your life and actually takes over quite a bit. I've had issues myself in the past, and I've grown past those, and, I've done my meetings and done my other stuff. I never lost license over it. I never, gotten in any accidents or hurt anybody over it. But alcohol really can be a thing. Alcoholism is very difficult to, move past. I don't want to make any more dumb decisions that involve alcohol. I don't want to hurt anybody. He admitted to sometimes drinking alcohol to turn off his struggles and stress. It can totally help with, certain things or whatever. And obviously he's got a, very high position, as being the sheriff, There's a lot of stress in law enforcement that impacts every street officer, every sheriff, and every police chief. We have to find smart ways to deal with it. Drinking isn't one of them. He said that he knows that police officers who like to drink too much at times, but Hutchinson implored them to get a ride if they do. I will pay for you Uber. So I mean, he's not practicing what he's preaching, which is a little difficult, for somebody to actually understand that if you're actually preaching something and you don't go practice it, they have the tendency to kind of look at him like, well, I'm not going to listen to you anymore. This will be a black eye for me. I've been going through some of the craziest times in my national history. I'm not proud of getting a DUI, but I'm proud to work with the sheriff's office. So I mean, he can be proud as he wants to actually work with the sheriff's office, and maybe he just needs to take a different position or whatever that wouldn't put other people at harm or himself. So then moving on to January 4th, about 4 days ago from today, it says Sheriff Hutchinson told deputies at the crash scene that someone else was driving. So then he was even trying to cover up that he was even driving, which, is kind of inexcusable in itself. Why would you actually do that? You should. There should be another charge that should come out of that. The warrant in Becker County District Court also says that an open bottle of bourbon was observed inside the passenger compartment. So see, now he's operating with an open bottle. Operating with an open bottle, you can be totally sober. If you have an open bottle in your vehicle, that's a charge. In the state of Minnesota, it's a charge. He should not be thinking that he can even be sheriff any longer. According to the filing, a Douglas County Sheriff's deputy told the state trooper that Hutchinson was the only person at the crash scene shortly after 2:30 a.m., December 8th, along Interstate 94, and he denied being the driver of the vehicle, and both witnesses at the scene and deputies upon their arrival. No other individuals were located either inside the vehicle or immediate area. One of the deputies at the scene informed the trooper that Hutchinson told him on several occasions that he was not driving, and at one point said that he called a cab and that the cab driver was driving the vehicle. What? What kind of lie is that? He didn't even try very hard. Apparently the alcohol was a little bit too much for him. Hutchinson's attorney Fred Bruno characterized Hutchinson's comment about another driver is old news, given that the client pled guilty 2 weeks ago in connection with the arrest. So, I mean, I get that you can only be charged once for a crime or whatever, and, once you're actually, I get some of that. But at the same time, maybe something else needs to happen. He rang his bell, and whatever he said at the scene was meaningless given his medical condition. Yeah, I mean, he cracked his, gave himself a concussion. He hurt himself pretty well. So, I mean, understandable that you're going to kind of try covering yourself at any point in time or whatever to make it sound like you were the one that was in the wrong. I think that's almost human nature to try covering up anything that you've actually done. Not that it's excusable. Bruno also said that the law enforcement inventory of the vehicle's contents, there was no open bottle. Well, they just said that there was. He declined to share the list with the Star Tribune. Douglas County Attorney Chad Larson, whose office prosecuted Hutchinson, said that the complete file in the case does not become public until 30 days after sentencing, which occurred on December 20th, when he was put on probation for 2 years. Probation for 2 years, he should get an ignition interlock system if he's going to be driving anything. Troopers are very thorough and unforgiving on DUIs. They would charge Mother Teresa. Yeah, absolutely. You're drunk and you're driving. You shouldn't get away with anything. The sheriff had a blood alcohol content of 0.13, according to the test of his urine. The state legal limit is 0.08. He was charged with 4 misdemeanor drunken driving charges, pled guilty to 1 fourth-degree driving under the influence. The search warrant was filed in order to receive court permission for the state patrol and to check driver's side airbag and steering wheel for DNA and look for open containers of alcohol, other evidence of alcohol consumption. The search also led to the patrol seizing Hutchinson's smartphone. Last week, Hutchinson did a series of one-on-one interviews with various news media, including Star Tribune. He never mentioned to the Star Tribune that he initially said someone else was driving at the time of the crash. This story is a little kind of strange and kind of odd, to say the least. Hutchinson told the Star Tribune that while at the Minnesota Sheriff's Association winter gathering, he had drinks at the hospitality suite in the evening and eventually went back to his room, where he was intended to spend the night. But he said he couldn't sleep, packed his bag, and decided to make the trip back to the Twin Cities. Hutchinson admitted that the details were fuzzy on what led to the crash. His SUV veered off of 94 and onto the snow-covered shoulder. The vehicle went into the ditch and flipped, every time leaving him with a concussion and several broken ribs and vertebrae. He has since returned to work, said he is receiving treatment for alcohol abuse, and he's pledged that he would not resign from his elected position. And then we move on to yesterday. Majority of Hennepin County Board calls for Sheriff Dave Hutchinson to resign. Sheriff says he plans to stay on after pleading guilty to drunken driving charge in December. That was an interesting little refresh. Embattled Hennepin County Sheriff Dave Hutchinson said Friday that he will not step aside as this growing number of county board members called for his resignation over his drunken driving crash near Alexandria last month. Hutchinson said in the statement that he fully committed to continuing to serve the people of Hennepin County who elected him. I will let the citizens, not politicians, decide my future in November. Well, so, November's coming up really quick here. I know it's only January, but, years fly, especially most recent ones. And most likely, hopefully the constituents could actually, have something to say about his inabilities to actually be sheriff. When you do something like he done, he went a little far. 5 out of 7 county commissioners issued statements this week demanding the resignation of his first term sheriff. Since he is elected by voters, the board has no authority to remove him from his office, which is totally fine. They have no authority to actually remove him, but they can actually go and they can say what they need to say to actually get the citizenry to actually go against what they elected. Actions and subsequent comments have eroded public confidence. His ability to serve in equitability enforced laws. That was from Marion Green, the chairwoman. So, politics aside, he really just needs to actually probably step down from his position. I think if it was, in my county, my county sheriff or whatever, I might actually have more to say about it and actually, go down and actually say something to the board and actually say, citizens are actually concerned. Hutchinson was elected in 2019 after narrowly defeating Rich Stanek. The sheriff's salary is $188,775. He oversees over 800 employees and manages a $127 million annual budget. That's interesting in itself that, he actually, makes as much as he does, and he actually, maybe, certain things just need to happen. He needs to actually, step down from that higher up position. It's hard to do the job of sheriff and also deal with the serious personal problem. Stanek said. So, I mean, the previous sheriff was saying, yeah, I get it. It's a big deal. It's hard to actually deal with the citizenry of, Minneapolis, alone the rest of the county. So, I mean, not that I don't feel bad for the guy, but at the same time, it's a little much. He's now attending outpatient therapy and took responsibility for the crash at the time, saying he's struggling with alcohol addiction. The sheriff had a blood alcohol content of the 0.13. The 0.08 is the legal limit in Minnesota, but only 0.04 while carrying a firearm, as he was at the time of the crash. As the sheriff of anywhere, most likely you do carry a firearm. So he was 3 times the legal limit to carry that firearm. He was charged with 4 misdemeanor drinking charges. Well, we were kind of know all that. I'm trying to skip through some of this one because obviously they're going to keep on throwing the same information at you. After pleading guilty, a newly unsealed search warrant of the Becker County District Court indicated that an open bottle of bourbon was observed inside the passenger compartment. It doesn't matter where it was. If it was open, the seal was cracked, that's a charge of DUI itself. You didn't even have to take a sip of it. The warrant also said that the Hutchinson repeatedly told state troopers that he was not driving when the crash occurred. As you can tell, I am from the state of Minnesota, so some of this is, kind of firsthand knowledge for me. I've had family members that have had, their issues with drinking and driving. So Fernando tweeted that she sent a letter to the sheriff urging him to resign, calling his actions egregious and saying that his comments since the crash are unjustifiable. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these board members have, lots to say about it, and as they should. You strongly disagreed, and since you're an elected official, I do not have the authority to place you on leave, Fernando wrote. Lundy issued a statement saying that with the current tense climate around the public safety, an incident like this involving the head public safety official of Hennepin County needs to be addressed. Trust needs to be earned, and I know that accountability is central to building and maintaining the trust. So I mean, these board members really seriously don't feel like he should actually be in that position. And I kind of agree with them. I usually don't agree with too many of the board members, especially in the Twin Cities area or whatever. The Twin Cities area is very against the police per se. I've seen plenty of things come up through the Twin Cities area about board members going against sheriffs for what they're doing and how they're doing it. The Trondos issued a statement saying the sheriffs endangered lives and violated the laws. He took the oath to uphold and enforce. And that's what I'm saying, is he totally went against his own his own oath of office, so he's there to actually, help the people and make them feel safe. And he went totally against that. Commissioner Kevin Anderson is not called for the sheriff's resignation. So one person hadn't called for it, everybody else did. Instead of calling on him to resign, I'm calling for him to completely be transparent about the incident, his recovery, and how he will address the culture of the alcohol abuse while protecting Hennepin County residents. If he's unable to do that, then we should have a new sheriff. And that's what I was saying is, if he wants to stay as sheriff put the ignition interlock system in his car, like they would do to any other citizen, which would make him blow into a meter or whatever before he could even start the car. That would actually kind of protect for the most part. He needs to take classes and maybe hold some kind of forums or classes himself to help the citizenry understand that alcoholism is something that can be helped, and you don't necessarily need to be drunk all the time to actually enjoy life. Hutchinson has 2 challengers for his race and re-election. Sawana Kirkland, the head of Tacony County Community Corrections Department, announced that she is running for the position, and Jai Hansen of Bloomington police officer is also running to become sheriff. So he's got an uphill battle to even think of running again, which I don't think he should. I think it should be between these two, Sawana and Jay. It's the only 2 that need to be running for this position, or other people can run for it, whatever. But Dave Hutchinson should be done with as being sheriff of anything. Maybe he can run for something else in the future, if he actually continues to do well with what he's meant to do. Being forced to step down from a position can actually maybe help him in the long run, because it will give him more time to actually take care of himself, as opposed to worrying about the whole sheriff's department and what they're actually doing. That being said, that's this episode. You can see around the page, you can see there's a link at the top. It says buymeacoffee.com/coolfrog. You can help me easily by going there. You can follow me on YouTube, Twitch, and Odyssey, all at Cool Frog. Locals is just another opinion.locals.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Cool Frog, and you can follow me on Getter at the Pickerel. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Later.